there my friends, Eric Andreas, your Guitar Sage here, and today we're going to be changing strings on a Les Paul. So if you don't know how to change strings on your guitar, especially an electric and especially a Les Paul, then this video is for you. Okay, so so I wanted to change my strings and I thought, well, why not just cut the camera on and go over this. So first off, let me show you a few things that I have here, and then we'll tell you what I'm going to be doing with them and that sort of thing. And this is Guitar Honey. This is for conditioning the wood on the neck. This guy is a little brush and micro cloth here that I can clean the pick schmutz. That's an official word, guitar word there, schmutz. Clean that off of the guitar to make it nice and pretty. I have some wire cutters that we'll be using to take the strings off. We could use them on the posts as well to take the strings off, but I'm going to show you a trick to get a real clean cut in regards to that. I have a Phillips head screwdriver. We'll talk about that in a minute. My strings, these are Diodario's, but I've got some GHS boomers. I've got slinkies, all sorts, Ernie Ball, so whatever you're liking there. And this is called Big Ben's Nut Sauce. You heard it right. And this is a lubricant for the nut so that when you're bending the strings and tuning and what have you, it doesn't catch. The nut is nice and lubed, and it keeps it family friendly, like this video. And we have a string winder. Yeah, for New Year's Eve. Okay, show you how to use that. And so the Phillips head screwdriver is for right here, my strap button. And the reason that I'm got it out here is that I always like to check this, because over time these can loosen up, and then over time, obviously, your guitar could fall off the straps, could fall out of the strap. So I always like to check those. Now, if it's really loose and you tighten it and you keep tightening it and it just keeps coming out, that means the wood is stripped there. And if you click on the link below, the Unstoppable Guitar System, you can get in there for $1. I actually just posted a video in there. There's like 350, close to 350 videos in there. But I just posted a video in regards to how to fix that. So there is some techniques that you can use to fix that. And so if you're having that problem, check that out. $1 is worth you dropping your guitar, right? Okay, so here we go. Without further ado, this is an R8, by the way, a Gibson Les Paul R8, which is a reissue of a 1958, because I don't have $250,000 to get a real one. I have a house though, so I would prefer sleeping in the house and having the reissue. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to clip across the strings here. Now I've had folks say, hey, can I do this? Can I have all the strings off of the guitar? Am I going to break the neck? Am I going to warp the neck? I've heard that question a lot. No, you're not going to break the neck. If you go to Gibson, if you go to Fender, you're going to see barrels full of necks, and they don't have strings on them. They're not even on a guitar, so it's not going to bother the guitar at all. Okay, now if you left it off for a very long time, it might, you know, the relief of the neck might go a little bit straighter than usual, but for the short amount of time that we're going to have the strings off here, it's not going to make much of a difference at all. Okay, so now when you're doing this, and by the way, you can see I have this on a towel here, or a blanket. You want to do that because you're flipping the guitar over, doing all sorts of things. You don't want to muck it up. Get it? Okay, so you got your clippers. You can either unwind the strings with a string winder. This makes things go a lot quicker, or if you have the drill type, that's even better. I don't like using those, but so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut across the strings here. What I'm doing is I'm lifting the string up to clip, because I don't want this thing coming in contact with my beautiful guitar top. Okay, so I'm just doing this, just going right across. The key to, for me, for tuning or for changing strings is, I don't like that it takes so long either. So I try to batch things. So clipping all the strings, pulling everything off at once, that sort of thing. So in this case, with this R8, I've got a stop tailpiece that comes off like this, and which is pretty cool, because then I can go and clean up, you know, with my little my little guy here. And so what I do is once the strings are off, I try to just kind of get all the nooks and crannies. I don't use guitar polish, rarely ever. I just don't like it, and it's a pain in the butt, and I just don't use it. But if you want to use it, then this would be an appropriate time to do it. Otherwise, I just like to get off the pick schmutz and what have you. Now, if my guitar is really sweaty from a gig or something like that, and it's, you know, all oiled up and stuff, then I might do it. So I'm going to set this aside. And this is also important. Now, when you're unwinding this, you want to be pulling up while you're unwinding this, because if not, you're dragging the guitar string across the surface of the headstock, and obviously you're going to put some micro scratches in that. You don't want to do that, okay? If you care about your guitar. If you don't, then, you know, if it's just like a beater or whatever, then go for it. Now these last two, I think we're tied on here. We'll talk about that in a minute as well. So you can, like on these higher strings, 1 and 2, a lot of times folks will actually tie a string or tie it in a knot. Now, if you have cats, you know that they love these, and you know that they're not good for them because they can bleed and stuff. So what I do is I take all 6 strings, I do this, and I do this, and I tie a knot in it like that, just to kind of get it out of the way. Sometimes a second knot, and then I'll take that and drop it on the floor. Otherwise, you're going to have little pieces everywhere, okay? I got my bridge here. I'm going to come back over here and do the same thing with the top. Okay? And another thing that I'm going to do here, I must take my string winder, and I'm going to take all of the tuning posts, and I'm going to look at it like this, you know, right here, and I'm looking at the nut, and I want each one of those posts, I want the whole of the post to point to the nut. Now, this is not super important, but again, if you want to know how to do this the best way, this is what I've found over the years works best. Some of these tips are from other folks that I've gotten, but most of them are just stuff that I've learned over the years works the best. Now, the reason that we do that is that we can get a nice bend in our string up at the nut, you know, or up at the headstock, which is going to allow that string to set in and really get a firm hold of the post. In this way, we are going to stay in better tune. Cool. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of a few things here just because I don't need them right now. Okay, we'll be using that later. Now, on D'Addario strings, you know, now they wrap them in 2s, so like 6 and 5, 4 and 3, 2 and 1, that sort of thing. And they tell you what's what. They're color coded. So what I like to do, there's a couple different ways that you can do this. If you just have the bridge like this, you could just put them in, and that's one way to do that. The other way is to put the bridge on there. Okay, and then string these through. And so again, I like to batch. So I do the 6th string, I do the 5th string, and I do everything necessary down here. If you get used to this technique, it's going to make things a lot quicker because you're not thinking like 7, 8 different steps, you're thinking like one step. Stick all the strings in the appropriate holes. Move them down there, that sort of thing, okay? So it goes brass, red, black, and green. So now we're putting black in. Pull them all the way through and just kind of set them off to the side like this. 3rd string, the G is green. 2nd string is purple, the B string. And like I said, not only is this quicker, it just makes it a little bit more enjoyable. I tend to rarely change my strings. I have a lot of guitars, but I don't change them often because I'm lazy, I suppose. Okay, so once you do that, now what I like to do is I like to take all but the 6th string, push them over to the other side. I take my 1/6 string, and I should just say I take the 6th string and I put it through the post, make sure everything's lined up here, lined up across the bridge, and then so once the string is in there, it's a straight shot, you know. Right there you can see that it's a real straight shot. There's no curve or anything to it. Now, what you want to do is you want to have just a little bit, at least a couple winds. Well, on the 6th string you probably only get 1 wind out of it on a Les Paul, but what I like to do is you don't want to just tighten it now. So normally we would create a bend right here. But what I like to do is put a little bit of slack in the line, like this, and then bend it. Okay? So what I'm doing is I've created a bend right there. You can see. Okay? And the reason that we're doing that is we want it to hook. So I'm pulling this now and nothing's happening. It's not coming out. I take my string winder and I start winding. Now, depending on your guitar, you know, you'll be going clockwise or counterclockwise. Don't be thinking that there's a specific way to do it. I mean, there is a specific way, but each guitar is different. So what you want, like for instance, 3 and 3. So you have 3 on one side, 3 on the other is going to be different than, say, 6 on one side. So in this case here, you basically want to have the straightest shot. You want the string to be as straight as possible. So for instance, if you see right here, you wouldn't want this string coming to this side of the post. You want it going a straighter shot. And that's true with all guitars in all situations. You just want them to be, you want it to be a straight shot, okay? So we're going to do the same thing here, 5th string, and there we go. Now, since each string is going to be a little bit thinner, we need to provide more slack in order to have that string hold on tighter, and because we have more room on the post that we can wind the string onto. Typically, the thicker strings, they hold on better because it's like a giant string, okay? But the thinner strings need more windings. So basically, and you always want to make sure that you're not winding the guitar off the small little table that you have set up. That's not a good idea. Okay, now I usually overwind a little bit in the beginning just because I'm going to have to stretch them out anyhow. So that's what I do. Just kind of by ear, just kind of wind them up a little bit. Okay, so this is number 3, or I should say this is actually the 4th string. We're going, the strings from the lowest to the thinnest goes 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So again, straight shot, but now this one's even going to get more. And I'll show you the end result here. Basically, we've got 1 wrap on the 6th string, 2 wraps on the 5th string, and this one will probably get 3. You know. And in the beginning, what you want to do is you want to hold it tight. So what I'm doing is I'm not holding it way up here because we want things to be as straight as possible. So what I do is I put my index finger down and I hold it with my other hand like this. That takes a little getting used to, and then I start winding, and I'm not holding, like this is not really super tight what I'm doing right now. It's just loose, but it's tight enough to where it's straight over here by the post, so that when it does wind, it's winding down in a spiral and there's no overlap, okay? So I'll show you what I mean by this in a minute. These are a lifesaver. These are like $1 in the music stores. Make sure you get a string winder. Okay, third string here. I'm just going to flip this for my sake here. Okay, again, what I'm doing here, notice, I'm keeping this string. You can do this however you want it. There's not a real science to it. But you just want it to be flat, you know, instead of me hanging the string like that. You want it to be in the groove, and you want it to be a straight shot to the post, because you want it to spiral down evenly, okay? And I'm not pulling too tightly, just enough for the first wind, okay? Then after that I can tighten up, but the first wind as you're doing this, it's going to want to pull out of there, okay? Sometimes you might have to guide it with your hand, but if you're holding this tight enough, 9 times out of 10 it's going to go down that spiral perfectly, okay? Obviously at some point here I'll want to get my hand out. Okay. So I lied on that one. I should have guided that with my hand down at the post, because that one's spiraling up. Not that there's that much, it's not that big of a deal if that's the case. It's more being a straight shot than anything else, okay? Now it takes some time to change your strings on the guitar, it just does. So again, a straight shot. Now because I messed that last one up, it happens. Wouldn't be the first time that I've done that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to still hold it tight, but I'm going to use my finger here to actually press down a little bit. Let's see what's going on there. To press down so that I get that nice downward spiral on this thing. In this case, downward spiral is good. All right. Do get your arm out. Be very embarrassing not to. All right. Again, if I was not using a string winder to do this, jeez, it'd take forever. And usually, now here's something you want to be aware of too, as you've noticed I've had to adjust here every time. It's because the saddles here, the adjustment saddles for the intonation or what have you, they were falling in between. The string was falling in between there. So that's something you want to be aware of before you tighten them up all the way. And like I say, I usually just tighten these up per how it feels, you know. Not worried about them being in tune or anything yet. Batch. If you remember to batch, it won't take you that long to string your guitar up. All right. So now for the high E string, I'm going to flip this the other way and show you a technique that folks use. and I'm one who uses this sometimes. And on the high E string, what happens is, because it's so thin, sometimes it will it'll fall out of the peg. You'll be tuning it and it keeps falling out of tune, keeps falling out of tune, keeps falling out of tune, because it keeps sliding around. So the more winds you have on there, technically, the more it should be holding on. However, these strings are thin. It's not always the case. So what you want to do is you want to provide a little bit of slack, like we did before, you know. But then what I like to do, and a lot of folks will do this same thing, is I create a little bit of a knot. Just like this. And so let me show you that this knot is going around the post as well. Okay. So it's not just a knot, but it's going around, it's knotting around the post. Okay. And then I tighten that up. Bingo, bango, jango. There you go. Okay, so now we're good. It's not going anywhere unless that knot were to break, and chances are that's not where the string would break. Usually it's going to break at the bridge. I've definitely had them break in other places, but 9 times out of 10 for me, that's where they're going to break. Okay. Now again, I've got my hand underneath here, and I have my finger all the way pressing it down. It will go up to the spiral there, and it should be good. Okay. Get a string winder. Essential. I lied to you, there was something else we need to get as a tuner, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so again, not on the saddle, so I had to unwind it again. Okay, so now we have a perfectly strung guitar, with the exception of my 3rd string, which honestly, it's still wound so nicely, it's not that big of a deal. I ain't gonna worry about it. Okay? Alright, so now, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna grab a tuner, and I'm just gonna get a basic idea. Okay, so I'm just taking a reference E from another guitar here. I actually just changed strings on that one as well, so that one may be off a little bit. But let me show you really quickly what I'm going to do here. I'm actually going to plug this guy in and show you a real quick tuning technique that you could use. Now I've got my tuner, we're going to fine tune it and everything, but what I like to do is plug in the guitar, and then I like to use the 5th fret tuning technique. If you don't know what that's about, here on YouTube you can type in Your Guitar Sage tuning, and I'll show you what that looks like. Basically how to tune your guitar by itself without using a tuner. So you just tune, you find a reference note like this, E, you know, and then I tune the rest of the strings. So what you do is you tap on the 5th fret of the E string, and then you pluck your A string. See? So I'm plucking, I'm hammering this, and then plucking the 5th string. They should technically be the same note. Okay? And then I go right down the line. So 5th fret, D string. And then so on. Now when you come to the 3rd string, you need to hammer the 4th fret for it to be in tune with the B, because that's a B. The B is tuned down a half step. And then lastly, 5th fret and the high E string. Okay, so now, with all that being said, I'm going to tune the E to the tuner now. Because what I'm going to show you is, once we have the strings on there, they're going to stretch, okay? They're definitely going to stretch, and they're going to go out of tune. That's what happens with new strings, because we have, metal has something called tinsel, kind of like tinsel on your Christmas tree. I think it's called tinsel. I'm sure you'll tell me if it's not it, but basically it's the stretchiness of metal. If there are any physics nerds out there and I'm getting this wrong, just be kind and say, no, that's incorrect, Eric, it's this, okay? You don't have to tell me about, get into some big dissertation about physics, because I didn't take physics, okay? I play guitar. I teach guitar. That's what I do, not physics. Love physics, but I don't teach that. So, but I'm pretty sure it's called tinsel. Anyhow, the string is going to stretch. And so now it just went flat and I had to tune it back up. So not only that, we're also pulling a little bit of slack out of this area, very, very little, and some slack out of here in the spiral and the bit that's going to the guitar. So now that I have that tuned up, that one, I'm going to go right down the line again and see if everything's in tune. Probably won't be. It'll probably be flat. Here we go. Always tune up to a note, never down to it. If you need to tune down to it, tune way below, not way below it, but go below it, stretch the string, tune up to it. Keep you in tune better. Boom, okay? So now, this would be a great time to use our Big Ben's nut sauce, okay? Comes in a little guy like this, and you have a little black cap. I'm going to take that off. And so what I do here is I'm going to take all the strings out of the nut, okay? I really should have done this a little bit earlier, but I didn't. Let's see. So I tell you what. Normally what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to do this. I should have done this earlier. That's kind of a foobar on my point. But I'll do a couple of them just to show you. So you can see I've got a couple of the strings out of the nut there. Then what you do is you take this stuff and you just put a very little tiny bit of the nut sauce in the nut, just like that. And so if you saw how much I'm putting in there, which you didn't from this angle, it's very, very little bit. I mean, it's like microscopic little drop, just enough to fill that groove up, right? So then you pop the string into it, and then now it's got some lube underneath the string to slide around so that when you're bending and that sort of stuff, it stays in tune, okay? So I'll do the rest after this video, but that's what you do with the Big Ben's nut sauce. Just look it up online. I don't have a, here it says guitaristonly.com. I got this years ago. It lasts a long time. It has this little brush too, so pretty cool. But it lasts a long time. I forgot how much it was. I think you get two bottles of it for a certain price. But super good stuff, and you can check it out there. If not, just Google Big Ben's nut sauce. Make sure you type in Big Ben's before you type in nut sauce too, if you would. I don't want you getting anything weird. You know what I mean? Okay. All right, so here we go. So I'm stretching them one last time. Oh, let me show you how I'm stretching this. Index fingers underneath the string like this. Don't yank straight up. Take the heels of your palms, lay them on the string like that, and go doot, 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 doot. Make that noise doot, 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 when you do it, because I don't know why, but it helps. Doot, 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 doot. Except you have to do it in the key of that particular string. I'm joking, you don't. So I do this, and this what I'm doing is I'm stretching out any slack in it, because if you just pick the guitar up and started playing it, it's going to go out of tune, it's going to go out of tune, it's going to go out of tune for like a day or so. So you do this, you're taking all that work out. Now my E comes up nicely there, and now Now, I'll probably do this one more time, and then I'm going to lube those other 4 strings, and then I'm done. Oh, let me show you one last thing here. But I don't want to bore you with the details of doing the other strings like this. So let me show you something. One last thing here is, so you don't need clippers to pull these off. What you're going to do is this. You can take the string, okay, and you're going to bend it in one direction as far as it'll go, then bend it in the very opposite direction as far as it'll go, kind of working its way around that a couple times, and then once you feel it get loose, you can spin it off like that, and it comes off nice and cleanly, and I can feel all around this post, and there's no string to be found there. I mean, it just breaks off real nice. So that's your little ninja trick for the day. You don't have to use the nail clippers and muck up your headstock and still have a little piece that pricks your finger, and then you got to go to the hospital and get a tetanus shot, and those always hurt. So don't do that. So you do this. You'll learn the technique. It happens pretty quick. I know it looks magical if you've never seen that happen before. The first time I saw that, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a lifesaver. And you don't have that nasty old piece of string sitting around there, you know? So as you get to the thinner strings, so I'm on string 2 now, they usually don't work as well, but these worked great. So they all came off nice and easily. Didn't have to use any nail clippers, and it was way quicker and no problem there. Okay, my friends, I'm going to do those last 4 strings, put my Big Ben's Nutsus on there, tune up probably one last time. You want to keep doing that until it stops going out of tune. So stretch, tune, stretch, tune. You should usually, if you're given a good stretch each time, should usually only take about 3 or 4 times, and then you're ready to go. Then fine tune it with the tuner, and you're ready to rock out with your socks out, okay? I'm Eric Andreas, my friends. If you like this video, hit thumbs up and hit subscribe. I have many hundreds of videos, maybe 700 videos here on YouTube for your enjoyment, mainly guitar lessons, both songs and theory and stuff like that. And I also do reviews, but my real cream of the crop stuff is below the Unstoppable Guitar System. If you hit that link, you can get in that whole system for $1, and that's where the magic really happens. Get my free ebook at yourguitarsage.com, and as always, please spay and neuter your animals, don't trust the man, and play lots of guitar. See ya.